Hello and welcome to the Ballcard Show, the sports podcast
for the sports collector.
I'm Jason Otero.
I'm Gary Lemaster.
This is Season 6, Episode 11, and we're right back in the show scene. 1 week off, and we're already back.
It was glorious. I'm not gonna lie.
Nice. It was
You've
nice.
been on me for years, man. You need to take a weekend off at least once a month. I don't know that I'll do it once a month.
Never, you will. Never do that.
But it was nice. We got to go to a friend's wedding.
Shout out JT. Triple Crown 24. Yeah.
Is now a married man. He's off the market, ladies. I don't think we have a huge female listener base, but just in case you were wondering, JT's off the market.
Well, wherever the female collectors are, I'm sure they're looking at us.
Not Eric Michael.
He is a heartthrob. I heard he's coming to the Ohio area. Eric,
I heard he's coming to the Ohio area.
Shoot us a message. We'd love to talk. We got great questions for our interview.
Yeah.
Okay, let's jump in. A couple things. First off, this week we're going to be in Cincinnati at Eastgate Mall, one of our favorite local shows. Around 400 tables, right? 3 to 5,
450 almost.
450 tables.
Yeah,
we're in the middle of the food court, baby, right where we belong. Look for the big white banner. You'll see us there. And then Sunday, Grove City Card Fest by B Sports Card Collector 2, the same people that do Shipshewana, Fort Wayne. They will be having their show. You'll see us right when you walk in. Left side, a few tables down from Ryan on the left. Big white banner. So come hang out with us. Sunday, we'll be leaving Grove City Card Fest like 30, 45 minutes early or wrapping up in enough time to get back to my house this week for whatnot. So be sure to check that out. Let's jump into some news, Gary.
Yes.
You already gave a story on this, but I'll let you go ahead and deliver the story here. Explain to us this whatnot lawsuit that everybody's talking about. What does it mean? And probably more importantly, what does it not mean?
So I don't want to get too crazy in depth with it. If you want like the full 3 to 5 minute take, go jump on IG or TikTok and you can find that video. It's not a lawsuit at this point. It's an arbitration filing. There are 30 or so people that the attorney, Paul Lesko, you may have heard of, is representing. And what they are alleging is that Whatnot is allowing the intentional creation of a unregulated casino type environment, especially regarding repacks and a little bit on the breaking side. There's not a lot of attention being paid to the singles side of things. A few things to keep in mind with this. First and foremost, this is not a doom and gloom scenario for the hobby.
Right.
The economy of the hobby is not going to fall apart because 30 people are pissed that they spent too much money on Whatnot. What I hope that it does is forces Whatnot's hand even further than what they did last year and takes the repack side of things and really puts a rein on how it's done. There are plenty of people out there who do it the right way. There really are. There are plenty of people out there that will give you the entire checklist, not just the hits. There are plenty of people out there in their show notes that do things the right way. Do some of those people still scream and yell and cajole the crowd? Sure. It's part of what happened.
Hey, so do we when a Patrick Ewing comes out.
That's right. We get the little lights off. We get crazy.
Although I did have the 1970 OJ, I played the Cops theme to that the other day on my solo show, which was a lot of fun. So
I think the important thing to keep in mind with all of this is that what is likely to happen is Whatnot is likely to pay a settlement and get these people off their back and make a few changes. This is something that they've been in talks with this attorney on, it sounds like, for a while. And at the end of the day, this is just a little bump in the road as markets grow and technology allows for disruption within markets. We're actually going to have here in the next couple weeks an interview with Big John Eisner of Big John's Cards, right? While I'm on vacation, you're going to be having that conversation with him. He is a practicing attorney. He will be able to spell out anything that I said incorrectly there.
And he's a real attorney. He's not an Instagram attorney like all of you guys on there. Like, this is what legal. We'll talk with an expert. How about that?
Yes.
Somebody that, passed the bar exam, passed high school graduation certification, We're raising the bar here on expectations for intelligence when we talk about this kind of stuff.
The biggest thing is this isn't going to wreck Whatnot. Whatnot's not going away. It doesn't matter what platform we're talking about, whether it's Whatnot, whether it's eBay, whether it's Fanatics, whether it's Collex, whatever it is, there are going to be bad actors. It's always going to happen.
Right.
People are going to try to find a way to game the system. It's really important to remember that while we get flooded with information about the bad actors, they represent a slice about that big of the overall pie. The vast majority of people selling on these platforms are trying to do things the right way. They're trying to be entertaining. You can find something wrong with anything if you look hard enough. Just enjoy the hobby the way you want to enjoy the hobby. If you don't want to participate in those spots, don't. Just go to your local shows. Go to your LCS. Whatever.
Yeah, it's not the end of Whatnot. It's not the end of that platform. I totally agree with everything that you're saying there. But you know what I just remembered, Gary?
What'd you remember?
We took a selfie heading over to JT's. We stopped at for a cocktail.
This is totally unrelated.
I'm gonna make sure that you get that image up. But I want to talk about the deviled eggs that you were comfortable leaving on your fingers.
No. That's not how this went down.
Let's show the photo first. The photo tells a story.
I really enjoy the way you spin these things.
What are you talking about?
This dude, there's about an hour and a half between the wedding and the reception. And we're like, hey, let's go. There's a place called Firebirds that we all really like. Let's take our wives. Let's go to Firebirds, have a couple drinks, have a couple appetizers. So we get there, and they do have pretty good deviled eggs. So Jason and his wife, Leslie, they order some deviled eggs, and there's one left. And Jason goes, hey, man, do you want this deviled egg? Now, let me describe.
Well, first, before you jump into that, that's the dumbest question I've ever asked in my life.
Oh, you knew the answer.
Yeah,
you knew the answer. But let's talk about how the deviled eggs are assembled and placed onto the plate, right? It is a heaping deviled egg with more filling underneath the deviled egg to hold the deviled egg in place. So I pick the deviled egg up, and literally as I'm shoving it into my mouth, I've got some deviled egg stuff on my fingers. Jason hands me his phone and says, let's take a selfie. And I said, let me finish this deviled egg first. And he goes, no,
never
let's
happened.
take the selfie.
Never said that.
So I take the selfie, and there's a little bit of deviled egg on a couple of my fingers, Uncle T, just a couple of my fingers. And Jason proceeds to see this, think it's the funniest thing he's seen this week, zooms in on it and posts the series of zoomed in pictures to our Discord for everyone to enjoy.
Well, I'm just going to point out 5 baby chickens made the ultimate sacrifice on your fingers. It was 4 ounces of egg yolk.
No,
Second
it wasn't.
thing I'm going to say is Firebirds is like a steakhouse where it's like the wood fired stuff. Like it's a little
awesome.
more upscale. It's not like a super fancy restaurant, but people aren't slopping around in there. So I can assure you everyone else in the restaurant eating deviled eggs is using the silverware that's been given to them. Not
Why?
Gary. Yeah, well, and to that point, great question. I'm glad you asked it. The reason they would do that is because we are no longer Neanderthals. And so when you go to a restaurant and you order something and silverware is available, sometimes you have a choice between slopping that all over your hands and using a fork. But I just thought it was worth bringing up.
I had no foreknowledge that it was going to be slopped all over my hands. And as soon as it was, I said, hey, let's wait to take this picture. And
If he was allowed, if I could tell you guys how many times we've been at a nice restaurant and at some point in the night, Gary is hitting a plate like this for something to lick.
I like food. What's your problem?
Now we're getting to honesty. I appreciate it. Took us a minute to get there, but I just wasn't going to let that slide without publicly calling you out. By the way, we dropped a photo of that in Discord. If you have not yet had an opportunity to join the Discord, we're close to like 150 members in a month.
Yeah.
Kind of crazy.
Yeah.
We drop exclusive content in there. You're able to ask us questions, and you're able to ask Keith Newhart up in Delaware questions about being a shop owner, what it's like to have an LCS. Matter of fact, let's head up to Delaware, Ohio right now. Newhart Cards for Shop Talk with Keith.
Hi, this is Keith at Newhart Cards, and this is Shop Talk. This week we're going to do story time. So We have a Donruss Optic Gold Jack Besh here. This is numbered 9 out of 10. We bought this a few weeks ago. It's been sitting in our value boxes, you know, nothing crazy. I come in on Monday after a great weekend. I come in, I look at our purchases. Guess what? There's a Jack Besh numbered out of 10, 9 out of 10 in our recent buys that we paid $50 for, right? Like, wow, now we have 2 out of the 10. No, we bought our own card back. So find out we had a thief amongst us. Stole this card out of our value box, brought it back in 2 days later. After he stole it, we bought the card back. You know, shame on us, yes, but we have thousands and thousands of cards. We have 20,000 cards on eBay. We don't know every single card. So yeah, it was a mistake on our part. The gentleman was confronted. He's no longer allowed in the shop. So story goes. But that kind of led me into something to where every day we buy cards, right? We buy on open product, we buy singles. How do we keep our reputation intact, right? Knowing that some of the stuff coming in may be coming in from a non-traditional source, right? So we just have to be on our game, right? We have to be able to kind of read people. You know, if you bring in a tote of 2025 Prism Blasters and you want $80 for 20 of them, and believe me, that does happen. You know, we have to be the stand-up guy and say, listen, I don't know where you got these, how these came about, but I think we're going to have to pass on them. You know, or singles. Somebody brings in a 2-row box of really nice stuff, and you can tell, hey, you know what? These have another local shop stickers on them. We have to be able to know that. So knowing your surroundings, know your other shops. I think that's kind of another key. So just be on your best behavior as a shop. Know the industry, know the hobby, and protect yourself. So anybody wants a Jack Besh, it is for sale. This is Keith at Newhart Cards, and this has been Shop Talk.
All right, thanks, Keith. Gary, before we go on to this interview with Mikey B, I'm excited about. Is this the first breaker we've had? Just not a repack breaker.
Oh, so yeah, then it would
New
be our
product
first breaker.
It only took us 6 years. Well, Kyle does the repacks, but
yes,
it's only taken us 6 years to feel confidence to meet somebody. We're like, this person seems like a decent human. They're very nice. They're knowledgeable and friendly guys. So that's coming up in a minute. But I want to show you. Gary referenced the guy that was kissing cards that he was saying goodbye to, and I just wanted to give us an opportunity to appreciate them together. So I'm going to show you a couple of these.
Some of these are wild. Like they could not make these cards today.
No. Let me find. I'm trying to find that. Here we go. So like this was 1967. They did a thing called wacky cards or crazy cards, but they were all perforated and stickered. Like, so here's an example of hostage-filled cupcakes, you know? Hey kids, you know what goes well with a bowl of cereal? This graphic. Minute lice, not minute rice. These are all from 1967, but the color really pops on them. They're kind of cool. Also, not one of those types of cards. 71-72 Wilt Chamberlain. It is very clean.
It's nice, yeah.
And then a little Joe
I love
Green.
the old snap cases too.
Oh yeah, I actually like these cases.
Yeah.
They do a pretty good job holding the card and they don't screw them up on the paper. And then some weird stuff from that binder I mentioned before real quick. Super clean on the maze. These are Venezuelans. So I don't know if you guys have heard of the Venezuelan cards, the variations out of tops, but these are both 1967s, a Frank Robinson and a Don Drysdale. Now these things are roached on the back. Absolutely roached, but they're also kind of impossible to find. And then even a few of the subset of the retired players. So when I tell you like that box had some crazy stuff in it, I couldn't pass it up.
This stuff is all going to be on your eBay here very soon, right? The Ballcard store. Yeah.
Yep.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. So while we're talking, well, let's jump in. I do want to do an update, but let's jump into this interview with Mikey B Cards. Really appreciate him taking the time to join us. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time. I'm very excited to introduce to you from north of the border in Grand Rapids, Michigan, Mikey B, with Mikey B Cards. Welcome into the Ballcard Show, Mikey.
Thank you so much. I know I reside in Michigan, and that probably is a strike against me. Just realized I grew up in Iowa, so I'm a diehard Hawkeye at heart. So I don't know if that makes it better, actually.
It helps. It helps.
Okay.
in my opinion. I thought you were in Northern Indiana. I had no idea. So now that we know this, we've addressed it. We can move forward with the conversation. Another thing I'm very excited about, Mikey, you are the very first wax breaker that we have ever had as a guest on the podcast. And that means you've like survived our gauntlet of expectations. So that's a big deal for us.
This is a big burden to carry. I'm going to try to do us breakers, justice here. But yes, I want people to understand that there are some great breakers out there with great communities, and we're not all terrible people trying to destroy the hobby, I promise. So hopefully we get an opportunity to shed some light on those that are doing it the right way.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Why don't you share your story with us a little bit, Mikey?
Sure.
Like, how did you get into this space? How long have you been doing it? What's the journey been like?
Yeah, so I started like a lot of people in my youth, which we don't have to talk about how long ago that was, but is the junk wax era. But when I was 14, I got a job at my local card shop. It was my first job ever. I absolutely loved it. Had a great time. I'm trying to not age myself here, but 93, 94 Finest came out while I was there, basketball.
Yeah.
You and I are about the same age, my friend.
Yeah. We represent. But so I that's where it started. I took a long hiatus in between college first jobs and so forth. Got back into the hobby around 2017 when I just got curious about cards again. Went to a local card shop, bought some product, opened it up, and I was like, man, cards have changed so much. Autographs, relics, just the designs, and just fell right into it.
Mm-hmm.
And I absolutely loved it. So discovered breaks shortly thereafter. I think at that time there was probably like maybe 25 breakers, like 25 legitimate breakers, and maybe 5 of them that people used consistently. So joined a couple of those, really, really liked that formatting of the hobby. And then, as I was kind of watching everybody, I was like, there's a lot of people that do this really, really well, but there's things that I would do differently. And I wish that there was just someone that did it like that. And I was like, well, wait a minute, why can't I do that like that? So I kind of took the leap and started very, very small on Instagram Live. It was me and like 3 to 4 friends. I would go to the card shop. I'd buy a couple boxes. We would draft or divvy up the divisions. I'd rip it on camera, and then I'd mail it out. And, we did that like every couple of weeks or whatever. And that was kind of like our way to split the costs in the hobby. And then 3 or 4 friends became 10 friends, became 20 friends, and breaking once a month became, once every week, and then multiple times a week, and so on and so forth. So I think it was around like 2019, the end of 2019, I decided that I was working a corporate job, which was not my favorite thing in the whole world. It wasn't really super exciting. I was breaking a ton. So basically I'd like work my regular job, come home, and then from like 5 p.m. till 1 a.m, do breaking. Mm-hmm. So I was like, something's got to give. That's just way too much stuff, way too much stress. So, I talked to my wife about it. We looked and crunched the numbers, and we're like, if I tried to do this full time, is this something that would work? And really, honestly, just took a leap of faith and decided, let's try it. If it doesn't work out, I can always go find another job. It's not that big of a deal or whatever, but really kind of took off. So around the tail end of 2019, decided let's give the breaking business, the full-time gig. So 2020 rolls around, COVID year, the next year. So obviously the hobby just exploded and our business just took off. There was nothing else to do. People had disposable income. The hobby was growing. Maybe I was we just hit it at the right time.
Yeah.
And so, all that kind of came to a fruition to where kind of we are today. Whereas we continue to grow our community. We continue to offer, products that we've never ripped before. We're always learning. We're always growing. We're always trying new things. And really just that building that sense of community is really kind of what got us to where we are today.
Yeah.
So it's been a very fun journey. It's been full of ups and downs. Not everything I've done has worked out well. In fact, I kind of like that learning process. Trying to figure out like, hey, this worked. Maybe we should do it again. Or that sucked. Let's not do that.
That's Jason.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's all part of the process, right? You live and learn. So that's kind of the 10-second, even though I told it in 2 minutes, that's the 10-second version of like how we got to where we are today.
So, I mean, 2017, 2018, I know it sounds silly to people that maybe are just parachuting into the space, but when we're talking sports card years, 2017, 2018 is considered being around a minute in the space now.
Yeah.
And I think part of the reason for that is because with all that growth that you're talking about, and it was an explosive growth through the COVID times, especially, we've seen so much change within the industry and even a ton change within breaking. Gary and I reference breaking of we were the Facebook breakers, right? Like we had a buddy that bought one box of Series 1 and we'd split it up to like $8 a team. And we'd have the time of our lives watching somebody rip a box for base rookies and maybe an autograph later in the year. But the environment and the community that was there was incredible. Yeah. Well, then COVID happens, and now some of these base rookies are worth $30. And now you're getting a spot, or you could grab something, and there was a lot more money involved. And it seems like things began to shift. And so the breakers that have been able to kind of stick with it through that last 8 years and all the changes, it's a little more unique than people realize. Like when you look at the different, like how many times do you think the industry, like how many shifts do you think you've seen since 2017, just in the breaking space? Does it ever change? Like, are you just saying it's like constantly moving?
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, it's a never ending true north, right? So like, I feel like there's an influx of people that are into breaking more because they are chasing cards that they could flip or cards of value. I still think there's a huge community of people that collect, that embrace breaking. We have people in our group that just like sports cards in general. Right. So they jump in stuff just because they think it's interesting. They're like, I don't know what it's worth. I don't even really know who the players or the important things are. I just know I'm having fun, and I've got the income to buy a spot or two or whatever. So we've seen several influxes, and obviously the breaking community has grown tremendously. Mm-hmm. So I mean, there are thousands of breakers now. There's a ton of apps that just do breaking. There's 24/7. There's breakers with multiple channels. So there's definitely been iterations, and that certainly is not going to change in the near future. I think, like in most industries, if you're not constantly evolving, I think you're going to kind of get left behind. So for us, it's always like thinking like, what does that next chapter look like? What are the whether it be the break styles or the formats or the stuff that people want, like what's going to be the future, what's going to work, and so forth. And again, it's just trying new things. Sure. Like let's throw everything at the wall, see what sticks, and then we'll know where to go kind of going forward. Right. And then let's be ready to pivot, because Lord knows we'll get thrown some curveballs. Yeah. So, I think we're nimble enough, especially since the entire business is represented by everyone in this picture. So like, I'm
blessing and a curse, right?
It is. I'm my own worst boss. So like, but like, I'm not afraid to change things or to do things differently or to look at a different perspective. I'm always open. And again, I think that makes the job fun, is because it's not always the same old. Mm-hmm. It's all right. Let's again try to figure out, what do we do differently to make us either stand out or offer things that are value added to our community?
Yeah.
In that lane, and talking about that, and this is a question that just kind of came to my mind because we were talking about, you getting started back in 2017, making the shift to full-time in 2019. Jason was kind of in and out of the hobby growing up and came back right around the same time, slightly, and then really jumped in as COVID hit, and I kind of never left. You were talking about being able to be nimble and change and things, which is really important. Do you find that it's a little more difficult to do that now with the way that supply functions? Because I remember, like, for me personally, back in 2015, 2016, 2017, I owned a sign company that for years and years and years. Mm-hmm. I just called Peach and said, here's my tax ID number and my business license. And I had a wholesale account in 30 minutes. And I could buy days, right, Gary? Yeah, those were the days. I could buy a case of Bowman Chrome for $540, right? A case. And so if I threw that against the wall and it didn't work, it wasn't as big of a risk as it is now at $3,500 wholesale cost. Right. Do you find that ability to pivot quickly is a little more nuanced than it was back then?
Possibly. I mean, allocation is always a problem as a breaker. Where can you source getting boxes and cases at a reasonable cost so that you could, one, make margin to operate a business.
Yes.
But two, continue to offer competitive pricing to your community.
Mm-hmm.
So I think part of it is, and that's always going to be there, right? And it is significantly harder to get product now than it was back then. You're absolutely right. Back then, I'm lucky that I have a large distributor literally 10 minutes from my house. I can drive down there. We've got 3 card shops here in town. So as far as like local product, very, very easy to get. But as to your point, it's going to be hard to survive if you're buying at retail pricing and then you have to mark up for your own margin and so forth, right? So I think a lot of it is, making sure that you can get the right products. As far as like pricing, you're right. It's a little harder to experiment because everything is so expensive.
Yeah.
That being said, I am never afraid to give something a shot, whether it be, I'll use hockey as an example. I don't get allocation for hockey. I'm not an upper deck diamond dealer or whatever. I don't watch hockey. I don't know much about it. I can't pronounce half the names or whatever, which I think our community loves, honestly. But there's just some really cool hockey products. And I know that there's a lot of people that collect it. So I will take a chance and grab like a black diamond or the cup or something like that, even though those are expensive products because the cards look cool. People like it.
The cup is gorgeous.
Yeah. So I'll give anything a shot. And if it works out, great. There have totally been products where we've tried and people just don't have an interest in and so forth. And so if that's the case, again, we'll just kind of try to move through the inventory that we've got and then lesson learn next time it comes around. Maybe that's just not for us.
Yeah.
But I love trying new things. I mean, honestly, I think it's great trying new products and learning about some of these sports or some of these entertainment options that, again, I might not be a huge part of. I'll use SpongeBob as another example. I know a lot of people grew up with that. I did not. My daughter's too young to miss that. So like, again, when that product came out, I had guys in our community that were like, you have got to get as much of that as you can, Mike. And I'm like, I will try. I have no idea what I'm opening. I've seen the memes, but I have no idea. But I'll open it and you guys can tell me if it's cool or not. And we'll just learn together. And we had a blast doing it.
Yeah.
So, those are the types of experiences that make the job fun.
So you've obviously in almost a decade of doing this now, which I don't know whether you ever think about it that way, but that's almost where you are. Yeah. Almost a decade of doing this now and closing in on that, doing it full time. You've created a lane. You've built a community. You've put, and if you're watching this and you think that it's as simple as just turning on a camera and telling people you have stuff to sell, to build a breaking business, to build a community, you're out of your minds. It's a lot of work. Yeah. It's a lot of time and a lot of effort, but you've done that. And when you look at the landscape of breaking now, we see a lot of extremes. You see the guys that are making it feel like a FOMO casino with flashing lights and spinning wheels and lots of colors and flashing red and blue lights and stasher pass and all this stuff where it's this like FOMO. On the other end, you have people that are so boring that you fall asleep. Yeah. Do you ever find yourself as you are looking at your business and your ways to navigate the changing environment, how do you, like, what are the core guiding principles that you have that are like, this is how we're going to stay in our lane and still be able to adapt as the business changes?
But these things won't change about our community, right? Yeah.
Right. I'm very blessed to have an amazing community. And you're absolutely right. It took years to get that. And you can't rest on your laurels that just because we've got a great group now, we'll have a great group tomorrow.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still the constantly getting out there and trying to attract people, especially as there's more options, right? So, as a YouTube breaker, I might be kind of a dinosaur compared to some of these other apps or whatever. It's not as easy as just grabbing your phone, pulling up an app and, buying and doing everything right then and there. So I have to offer something value added to somebody to choose me over something else.
Sure.
And again, I kind of go back to those days when I first started, where it's like, what were some of the issues that we saw in breaking? And one of the things that used to drive me absolutely insane, kind of a two-parter here, is one, not a lot of people had like the order of the breaks on screen. So I had no idea when my break was going to be. I bought into one break. It was blah, blah, blah football. And I don't know if it's going to come up in 10 minutes or if it's going to come up in 3 hours or it's not going to even go today.
Right.
So I don't have the time to sit around for 7 hours and watch a stream and hope my break goes. So one of the first things we did was we're putting the order of the breaks on stream, and it might change and so forth, but you could easily come into our room at any time and know what's going to go when or what's already gone. The other thing, and I think this is of incredible importance, especially to those that are new, is that I really make it a point of emphasis not to have downtime in my live streams. Because as you just alluded to, there is nothing worse than going into a live stream and just you got somebody there for 2 hours. I don't care if they're awesome and they're entertaining or if they're dry and monotone. If it's 2 hours between breaks, that is way too long. I am not interested.
Yeah.
Nobody has that attention span anymore.
Yeah.
Right? So for me, and Jason, you got a chance to experience this last week with us, is that it's important to me that one break ends, next break goes. We are moving.
Yeah. I'll say this to support what you're saying. When you were wrapping up a break and there's a few spots, the first thing I noticed was when you offered fillers to close it, it was literally it was clear to me first time watching, he's trying to put as much value as possible to get this moving.
Yep.
And by having that mindset, no customer's ever feeling that tug of war between you and them of like, come on, guys, don't you want to see? Like, it's like a mindset of whining. And it can happen selling singles at shows and on whatnot too.
Sure.
But I want to applaud you for that, because that is something that you don't see as often anymore.
Well, it takes a lot of mental fortitude to do that. Like it's really, I can speak from my own experience. Like it's a lot of why I'm transitioning off of whatnot for my solo stuff. It's really difficult. Jason tells me all the time, I wear my emotions on my sleeve. Like whatever I'm feeling, whatever I'm thinking, you're going to see it on my face. You're going to hear it in my voice.
Right.
Much respect for having the mental fortitude to come into that with the plan of this doesn't go exactly how I think it does. How do I fix it?
Yep.
And keep people engaged and happy with the solution.
And it felt like a reward.
Yeah.
Hey, if you guys want to help me fill this, hey, let's figure this out. So again, and I'm not trying to oversell this, but I do think that's a unique thing that you've been intentional with. I don't think that happens by accident.
I don't either. And I think a part of it is that I understand that we are going to have some nights where everything fills tremendously and there are no issues and the chat is hopping and it's just going to be like awesome. But you know, that's not always going to be the case. So on those times where it is a little slower, or maybe there's not as many people in the room, or the breaks are having a little bit of a struggle to fill, my solution has always been I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit of margin to offer a better deal to people. Because again, it's more important to me that we keep moving than it is that I crush it every break, right? Mm-hmm. So I've had nights before where like nothing was filling and I lost my behind. And that's going to happen or whatever. That's just a natural part of it. It's not like that every time. And it's not like everything's awesome every time. It's a good mix of in between. So you take the good and the bad, you get through the live stream, and then you can reflect, okay, what maybe didn't work? Was it just the product that no one was interested in? Was it the teams that were left were priced too high compared to the market and I just didn't correct? Or there's always a reason to self-reflect. And sometimes you just have bad nights. So if you can't get over that, or if you're going to be someone who's like, I'm just going to sit here and be stubborn until this stuff fills and I'm going to whine or complain or whatever to the chat. I was like, again, I think there's a finite amount of time that people are going to be able to like stomach that. And then they're like, I don't want to. No, every time I go in that room, they're begging people to take spots. I'm like, that's just not. Yeah, people don't like that.
Who's providing the service to who here, right?
Right. And so I also think it's cool. I try to find unique ways to give back to our community. So whether that's like doing giveaways or whatever, sometimes one of the things I really like to do is when I have a night where we're breaking a lot of product, and I know that, the breaks are going to fill pretty easily and the margin's going to be pretty good. I like to take a product or two and just be like, all right, guys, I'll tell you what, I want to reward you for how awesome you guys have been tonight. I'm going to do this break for free. And I want to try to get as many of you in it as possible. You don't have to join or whatever. or I'm going to do this brake below cost or at cost or whatever it might be. And I'm not saying we do that all the time, but I think you have to reward your customers for their loyalty. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. And again, I think sometimes people that are just starting out, they look at something like that and they're like, I can't do that. I would lose money. And I'm like, I just think that's money better spent than on some of like traditional marketing efforts or whatever.
It is a marketing effort though. That's what it is. It's a marketing effort. If you're going into any business and thinking that you're going to do it and be wildly successful without marketing expenses, you're outside your mind.
Good luck.
Right? Those just exist.
Yeah.
Jason, I don't know whether I'm jumping a question here, but
go ahead.
I kind of flows out from what we're talking about here. I've heard you jokingly say this, and I'm not going to repeat how you phrase it, but there's a perspective. Well, no, I don't. I want to give you the opportunity to say it if you want to. I don't want to put words in your mouth. There's a perspective within the hobby that breakers in a lot of ways are bad guys.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's a perspective that you have to fight against, that the good guys have to fight against. But that perspective exists because there are some breakers out there that do it bad.
Sure.
And they don't just do it bad. They do it shady. They're actively trying to take advantage of people. They're lying. They're, leaning into FOMO. Obviously, I know that you have to feel frustrations about being lumped into that group. But when you see those things and hear those things, like, how do you deal with that? Do you feel frustration about that when you see guys doing it the wrong way? Do you feel like, gosh, just do it the right way, guys? There's a way to do this that you can still make money, or do you just kind of distance yourself? How do you react to that?
I feel worse for the customer. If guys want to take shortcuts and whatever, that's on them. Those guys aren't going to be around long. I feel bad for the customer because for a lot of people, it's probably their first foray into the hobby. It's a negative experience, and then they leave and they tell their friends, "Don't do that. It's a ripoff." So I try to focus on the positive and the people that do it the right way, and there are plenty of them that do that. We certainly, as breakers, have a stereotype and a reputation, which I'll tell you guys, my past lives, I worked in car sales, health insurance, and braking. So I think I've got the top three,
covered it.
Most hated industries. So I don't know. I might go into law after this. But anyway, now that shout out all lawyers. You work very hard to get where you are. But no, I don't take criticism personally. There's a saying, forgive me if I slaughter it, but it's never take criticism from someone that you wouldn't take advice from. So when a random troll or whatever wants to lump all of us in one big basket, we're all terrible and we're all the reason the sky's falling and the hobby sucks or whatever. I'm like, I take that with a grain of salt. And I'm like, first, I don't, it doesn't affect me personally or whatever. I never take offense to that. But at the same time, I'm like, again, I was like, I can't help but think maybe they had a negative interaction that didn't necessarily need to happen. And maybe that's the breaker's fault. Or I might say something controversial here. Maybe it's the consumer's fault because they didn't do enough research, or they weren't educated, or they didn't ask enough questions.
Yeah.
So they bought into something that they didn't understand and then had, a negative thing. So it's nobody's one fault or whatever. I think we could all do better, but I would advocate for people that enjoy breaking or just want to experience it. If you actually asked around, if you go to various sites, if you kind of take a look at the community as a whole, it's not hard to find the people that are doing it the right way. It's really not.
Yeah.
The bad always gets the bad is what gets hit in the face. It's the TMZ-ification of everything. Like you open Instagram, you open TikTok, and it's somebody exposing the bad, but nobody ever talks about the good. And I say this all the time, like we're single sellers on Whatnot, right? We don't break, we don't do repacks. And there are terrible single sellers on Whatnot.
Yeah.
But it is a small percentage of the overall pie. The vast majority of people who are doing this, who are breaking, are trying to do it the right way. Sometimes we fail,
sure,
but at least the effort and the intention is to do it the right way.
Right.
Yeah, I want to jump in here because I really like what you were saying about, that emphasis on where it draws attention. And it seems like sometimes those negative things are like the sole focus.
Right.
One of the things unique to the Ballcard Show is that we try to offer this from a open book business perspective. And so my hope is there's probably not a ton of up and coming breakers, but we probably have some people in this space that have started a card business. They're thinking about breaking, but the constant content cycle they have is this is awful, awful, awful.
Mhm.
And the impression I get with you, Mikey, is you're the type of person that has the ability to kind of be the person that puts your arm around somebody and says, hey, listen, if you want to do this, you can.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of noise out there. And if you're launching your breaking business and you're tired and you're just trying what everyone else is doing, if you could give people just a couple things to focus on as they're starting their breaking business. We're not saying they're thinking about starting a breaking. This is somebody that has good work ethic. They're an ethical person and they just don't want to screw it up. They want to build that community. What would be some of the things you'd encourage them with early on that, like, looking back, if I did it again, this would be the sole priority as I got started?
What are the best choices?
Yeah. Number one thing, without a doubt, is build your community. That matters more than anything. And that's the advice I give anyone that asks me, I want to become a blah, blah, blah. I was like, build your community. Because if you have relationships with people, everything in this hobby becomes so infinitely easier, whether it's selling singles, shows, breaking, or whatever. So I would say that if you wanted to try things, find a couple people that you're close with. Start small. I'm not saying that's the recipe. It worked for me. It might not work for somebody else per se, but I would start small. I think if you're going to try to go in there and try to be like the big boys or whatever, I think people don't understand just how much work and energy and effort and how many people go into those operations.
Yeah.
So, my first day of breaking, I don't, back in the day, Leighton. So Rich Leighton, who's a good friend and a very great operation, and they're still very good, very, very good. I would love to do some of the things that they do. I'm not at that level or whatever. And I didn't try to be at that level kind of starting out. I was like, all right, what are the things that I like? What are the things that my community likes? Let's start there. Let's go small. And then hopefully people have good experiences. And then they become your best marketers, right? That word of mouth, those referrals. And that's what we have today too, is that the vast majority of new people that come to us are people that are referred by our current customers. So if you have that community, whether it's through socials or within your local area, at your card shop or whatever, a lot of things become a lot easier to start and try. And then it just, again, becomes a live and learn. So try things, see what works, what doesn't. Understand that it's, right now getting into a lot of things in the hobby, there's a much higher barrier of entry comes in terms of cost. So you've got to be comfortable with, you might not be profitable right away or at all for a long time and so forth. But if it's something that you really want and it's something that you're willing to work really hard for, it is certainly achievable. But it is not something where you can come in and take shortcuts and wrong people and expect to have a long life in. It just
we're not grabbing 2019 Prism blasters off the shelf for a quick triple up anymore.
Right.
Nope. Those days are gone.
Well,
those were fun days, but that was
Well, and what you just said there is something that we try to drill as well on the show side of things. If you're wanting to become a dealer, either part-time, full-time, it's work. Like this is, I think a lot of people see this hobby and they see a card sell for $10,000 or $100,000 and they think, gosh, this is just easy money.
I just need to sell 10 cards a year.
I mean, if you win the lottery by we have a friend, pretty well known on IG, who has had a legendary streak this week of ripping wax. He pulled the Otani 1 of 1 out of 2021 gold label, just left field. And then yesterday, out of the new Prism, he hit the Black Finite Caleb Williams throwback. And so he had himself a nice solid $15,000 to $20,000 week.
Yeah.
Go buy a lottery ticket, Alex. We love you. But that's not the
Real quick,
norm.
Gary, when we have somebody in the breaks that have like a couple of really strong ones in a row, my kind of go-to joke is, I'm like, hey, do you want to go halvesies on a Powerball ticket?
Yeah, exactly.
You pick the numbers. I'll pay half for sure,
Yes.
or the whole thing.
But the reality of it is whichever side of this business you're going to be in, whether it's singles, whether it's breaking, whether it's promoting shows, whatever it is, you're going to have to work your tail off if you want to build an actual business.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah,
When you think, let's fast forward now, we're not looking back, we're looking ahead. The landscape has changed. There's no longer 25 breakers. There's a bajillion of them.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more competition. So obviously, good on you. So there's sometimes people will have this almost negative connotation. Well, they started pre-COVID. Yeah, nobody was doing that though. It wasn't the thing. Like you were taking on a risk early on of like, I hope this works out, but it wasn't a proven model. Now we have people flooding to the space where they may not even understand the car space, but they're a talented personality, or they're good on live streams, or, they're marketers that they're really good at marketing, whether or not they're even entertaining. The landscape has dramatically changed.
Yes.
In 2026, where there's more competition, there's discussion around how do you find enough of the product you need, all that kind of stuff. What are the challenges that you see? Like, hey, in 2026, Mikey B cards, like, here's challenges that I know as I'm looking ahead, here's some challenges we're going to have to overcome in the space as the landscape is shifting.
Yeah. I mean, sourcing product, obviously huge challenge. Finding that rhythm of what works as far as like timing of when you're live, getting people to your room when there's 900 other places for them to choose where to rip or whatever. And then I think a big part of breaking is the entertainment factor. Again, you have to captivate somebody's attention for a long period of time. So when most people that ask me what I do, I don't say I do card breaks. I say I talk to myself, at my computer for about 7 hours a couple times a night. And they're like, okay. And I'm like, well, I mean, honestly, that's what it is. I mean, you're engaging with your chat and there are things that you're doing on screen as far as opening packs, but for the most part, you've got to be the entertainer. So, I think there's a knowledge component of that. I think there's a being able to, keep things light and have fun. You've got to be able to be there to celebrate when, something crazy happens, a big PC card or just a big card in general, and celebrate within your own means. I'm not saying you should, whatever. People kind of go a little above and beyond that. But also, what are you going to do when you have a break and it stinks? And, or whatever, because they're not all great. So, again, what are some of those things that you can do to kind of keep people engaged and keep people interested, I think is very, very important. Again, how are you going to draw people to you versus others? And then I think a lot of it too is just, dealing with customer service issues. So, things get lost in the mail, or somebody bought a spot that you double sold accidentally, or there's just all sorts of stuff that can happen that you just can't plan for. So making things right, making people happy, trying to figure out, hey, how do I keep the business going while, buying 50 cases of Bowman or something like that. So there's a lot of things that go. So again, I think that's part of the challenge, but also part of the fun is that there's always some new problem to solve or always something new to try that will kind of keep your interest and engaged. And if you're interested and engaged and you're excited and it's genuine, growing the community will certainly come. I think those kind of go hand in hand. So you need kind of one before the other gets there.
You and Jason have so much in common personality wise and the way you approach things. And
I'm just over here nodding to like, yep, that's exactly.
And for me, as somebody who, I'm the guy you were talking about a minute ago, Mikey. My brain is very analytical. I'm very direct and straightforward. I have a passion about the things that I have a passion about. I'm not the most, if this was just me on a podcast without Jason, we would not have the following that we have. We complement each other well.
Oh, you guys' chemistry is amazing.
But
compliment that for sure.
He is the one who provides that, what you're just talking about. And as somebody who has had to deal with in growing my business, the emotions of being like, why can't I do that? And leaning into what I'm actually good at, which is why I love shows so much. Like, I love the interactions at shows, mostly because there's a table in between me and other people. Whereas Jason would be just as comfortable in a circle of people. Like
if I could get paid at card shows to walk the room and start conversations and just genuinely be in them, if that was a job, I'm set.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody will write that check one day.
I'm sure there's got to be some companies out there needing some buyers. So I love spending other people's money. I'm very good at that.
Yeah, there you go.
But that side of things, one of the things I would like to tell people that are thinking about getting into doing this, don't get frustrated if what Jason does or what Mikey does or what somebody else does doesn't work for you. Mm-hmm. Figure out what works for you in an ethical manner and lean into that. And it might not be live selling. It might not be breaking, but there's still a spot for you within this industry if you've got the right mindset and you're willing to work and you're an ethical, honest person.
Not everyone's equipped to do everything, right? So certainly there are certain personality types that do better in certain scenarios. I think you guys touched on this on a previous podcast, and again, this is one of the reasons why I love listening to you guys is your honesty, and it's not always just doom and gloom and clickbaity, but you recognize that, all right, I'm not as strong when I'm by myself, right?
Yeah.
But the I don't even know the right term I'm looking for here, but like when you guys are together, the banter and the back and forth that you have, that's translatable to a table at a show, to a show or whatever. So I guess I would tell somebody, listen, if you're introverted or if you're shy or, you don't have a problem with long spaces of silence, which drive me nuts, then I would say maybe solo is not the way to go.
Yeah.
Maybe what you should do is find somebody that you can connect with and that you banter well with, because that translates really, really well on camera. So I'll use an example. I've had my wife, my friend Brad, and other people in the break room when we do products. One of my favorite things to rip every year is Pop Century from Leaf.
I love it. That's fun. Yeah.
I bring my friend Brad and my wife into the live stream when we rip that because they don't know who any of these people are. And it's hilarious to me to watch them try to figure out who's Burt Reynolds. And I was like, geez, guys. But like they don't know. And so it's like, oh, he was on Friends, right? And I was like, oh my God. So like
Knight Rider.
Right. So
Happy 5-0.
And that just translates to everyone's laughing in the chat. They're having a good time. And people are like, oh, I'm really interested in this product now because I want to see them open more because they have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
Whatever. So that might be, again, you have to look to what your strengths are, and you have to really be able to take a good, honest look at, this is what I do really well. This is what I don't do really well. And whatever that don't do really well is, there's likely something that you can do or change or add to kind of counterbalance that.
Yeah.
And so, again, if you have someone that's maybe a little quieter, maybe someone, again, bring a friend in that's maybe a little more boisterous or whatever. So I have a feeling like if Jason and I did a show, I don't know. I think we'd probably be a little nuts, right?
It would take 3 hours to get through a box.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, like,
I'm not saying we shouldn't entertain the idea here. I like where we're heading with this.
Right?
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
With a good time. So, like, but yeah, there's ways to counter it or whatever, and same sort of thing. So, again, you have to kind of figure out, all right, is this not working because I don't have the right inventory, because my pricing's off, or whatever, or is it maybe me, or whatever. And I think being able to self-reflect and, more importantly, trying to do something to counter that is what will help with businesses to pivot, to kind of be like, let's figure out what works. And what works is when we have two personalities that are friendly, but they're different. And that kind of, like, whether it be conflict or personality styles, make for good viewing.
That's a good point, that even the conflict, when it's genuine interaction, can be very entertaining and authentic in that moment. And what we get a lot of times is people walk up to the table and we're fussing over something and they can't believe that it's exactly like the podcast. They're like, we're just two normal dudes. We just turned on a camera.
Yeah, it doesn't change when the camera's on or the camera's off. This is who we are.
Authenticity goes a long way. And
man.
People see through fake pretty quickly these days. Yeah. And I'm the same way. Like, if people watch me on the breaks and watch how silly I am or whatever, and then they meet me at a show or at a conference or the national or something like that, they'll be like, oh, he's exactly like that.
Yeah.
It's not a show. I'm not putting, it's just me.
That's a great compliment though, right? Like
Yeah.
that the thing that I'm trying to build and the way I'm trying to build it is sticking.
Yeah.
That's how you know that that's happening.
Yeah.
When people come to expect a behavior and they get what they're looking for every time. I really hope the people that are paying attention here and listening, those of you trying to grow your business, understand the principles that Mikey's sharing with us are just rooted in experience and reality. And so they're things to take and run with. Take notes. One little shift before we finish,
Sure.
if that's okay, Mikey. I want to talk about shows.
Yeah.
Because that's our happy place. So as I mentioned before, like we were introduced to you through Mikey B's value boxes. Mikey at shows. I learned that before I learned Mikey B's been a breaker for a long time. So talk to me about, the role that shows play. I know you're not like all the time setting up, but you set up at throughout the year a couple times, same guy, and just walk through why you're doing that, because it's not your primary of your business, but it's a piece of it. And what are the things that you've grown to like or maybe loathe or what you're seeing in the show scene?
I love shows. I honestly wish I could do more. This job as an entrepreneur and a solo businessman here is 24/7. I mean, there's even in my downtime, there's something I could be doing. And, unfortunately I can't turn my brain off to wanting to do those things. So it's usually a time constraint for me, that and getting inventory because I don't have time. Right. So occasionally what I like to try to do is I build up throughout the year, whether it's like purchasing collections, consigning with people that are in the breaks. If a product comes out that I'm really excited about, I'll try to grab a couple boxes for myself because I still enjoy opening things for myself or whatever. But then, the closet gets a little big, it gets a little crowded in there. And I'm like, okay, time to flip that. So, how do we do that? So I do set up. I love Ship Shawana. I've known Brad Beeman and Ryan for forever. I'm not one of the day oneers, but I think it was at their second or third show was instantly hooked. There's just something magical about that show, and I know you guys have had countless amounts of content around it, but it is truly special. I love going to that show. I do love setting up. That again, I'm just a people person, so meeting new people. The negotiation back and forth with a sales background. I love that. Mm-hmm. Even though some people don't want my number or whatever. And really, I did it the same way as the breaking business was when I started doing shows, to me, it was more important to move the inventory than to get top dollar. So I think what a lot of people saw was I had a good range of stuff available because I opened everything because I loved everything. Right. And then I priced, I would say probably aggressively, but I was very fair with negotiations and just easy to deal with. Mm-hmm. And so what has happened kind of fast forward to now is that when we set up, literally there will be other dealers waiting for us at our table before we even get through the door. And they're very nice and they're patient. And I feel bad because I'm like, we got to put everything in the showcases or whatever. But like the nanosecond we say, all right, let's go. We just get swamped.
I was there at Fort Wayne. You had them, and I was one of the ones in the shadows.
I couldn't
set
get
out
there.
boxes, and somehow one of them you kind of slid around and it landed in front of me. It's like the heavens open. You know what I mean? And I got a box to myself, a great baseball stack. But you're not exaggerating. I've seen it.
No,
everybody's waiting on it.
The only thing I feel bad for is that a lot of that stuff gets picked through before the general public comes in, but. Again, most of our business at shows happens dealer to dealer. So, which is fine because for us, we make our nut like within 30 minutes of setting up and then the rest is just gravy. So it's like, all right, let's have some fun and try to move the rest of us or whatever. So,
and we're happy to let the consumers have that every Sunday at 4:30 Eastern on Whatnot.
Exactly. Nice plug.
Thank you.
And so, but I think the way that I price stuff is I want to move it so I can get more room. I'll take that cash and use it for something else, whether it's to buy a PC card or whatever, put it back into the business. And then if somebody takes that stuff and they can make a couple bucks on it, good on you. Great.
Yep.
Whatever. Again, like our goal when we go to shows is to not bring as much stuff home. unless it's empty boxes. So
you get pretty close to cleaned out at these shows, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I remember, like, that's your mindset isn't whatever I don't peel through, I've got to sell next week. So it's like a few times a year I want to liquidate, right?
My next show is going to be like probably in August. So, and I don't even know if I'm going to get enough inventory for that. So it might literally be for me either Fort Wayne in November or Shipshewana in March again before I set up again. So I'm fine going through things. Again, I don't want to make it feel like, oh, well, I'm just giving away $1,000 cards for $300. No, but I think I'm a little easier to negotiate and deal with than a lot of folks. And I think the reputation that we built, when people come to our table, they know, hey, I can offer Mikey a couple bucks off his sticker. He's going to say yes, and we can just go. It's just going to be
moving,
transactions or whatever. And I'm sure that a lot of people would like a lot more dealers like that.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, one of my favorite sayings in this hobby is if you try to squeeze every penny out of every card, you're going to have a whole lot of cards and very few pennies.
Very true.
Like, that's just the reality of it. Before we wrap this thing up, first off, thank you so much for taking some time with us. Tell the people where they can find you. We want to give you the floor. You tell the audience. We want to tell our audience, if you're looking for a breaker that does things the right way, that's fair, pricing is fair, and you're going to have a good time, we will fully endorse Mikey B Cards. Tell them where they can find you.
Yeah, so on socials, I'm on X and Instagram at Mikey B Cards. I am trying to learn TikTok. My 11-year-old daughter is helping me greatly. I've grown to love that platform a lot. I think there's a lot of fun things that you can do with that. So I think it's like Mikey.B.cards on there. It's on the other socials or whatever. We have a Discord for our break community as well. My breaks actually take place on YouTube. So youtube.com/MikeyBcards. Our website is MikeyBcards.com. We put up new breaks usually on like Monday, Thursdays. I'm usually live on YouTube Wednesdays and Fridays. Sometimes those days differ, just depends on the release calendar or if we've got extra time available. We're trying to do some more Sunday breaks and so forth. Yeah, there's a lot of great breaker options there. I would absolutely love if everyone came and at least gave us a shot. But I think that if you come, I want to set those expectations. Again, it's a good community. We're very positive. A ton of our people are our families. They're watching with kids. The kids are engaged and so forth. So we try to keep it family friendly as well. We rip everything, literally everything. And if there's something that we don't break and someone has interest in it, I will try to get it and we will figure out a way to do it. We try to offer a lot of different varieties in our breaks. Pick your team or random team or division, whatever it might be. But also it's really important to me to find different price points. So, it's not always going to be full case breaks. It's not going to be 20 case player breaks with $1,500 spots or whatever. It might be a couple box or whatever, but I want people to be able to come to our live or come to our website and find something that they can enjoy at their price point. And then again, from above and beyond that, it's just what can we do for surprise and delights? We want you to be entertained. We want to have fun. We've pulled some crazy stuff just in general. I mean, you open enough product, you're going to do that. But I would just tell you, even if I'm not for you for whatever reason, maybe you don't like my personality or that's fine. But do your research out there because there are a lot of great breakers. We're not all terrible people. I promise you, we're not trying to ruin the hobby. But it's so easy to get caught up in what you see with the negativity and the clickbaity stuff and watch how people are doing it the wrong way. It's very hard to find stuff that shed light on people that are doing it the right way. But they are out there, and I would encourage you to look for them because once you do, I think that you'll find that those communities are worth engaging in and worth your time and worth your money. So, yeah, give us a shot. I'd love it.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Michael. We really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys, so much. It's great seeing you.
All right. That was some great perspective. Definitely not a space that we spend a ton of time talking about. So it's good to bring in an expert that's like actively working in that space to give their take on it. Before we wrap up today, I want to do a little update. We try to be an open book and share our journey with you of what we're working on, what we're trying to improve in our business. And we both have made some recent shifts. I decided to move away from the high volume low end on eBay, and Gary's decided to move away from the solo shows on Whatnot on a weekly basis to emphasize putting some really cool, unique stuff up on eBay. So I would love to do an update
Yes.
both of that. I'll start with you. Like, how's eBay going? People want to know, like, has it been a good choice? Do you regret it? Where are you?
So far, it feels like it's been a good choice. The upside has been that I have been able to set some actual like all-time high sales records for cards. Things that have not sold for a long time that have gotten interesting again. Some of the old refractors and things like that. Sold a Jeff Bagwell Upper Deck Choice for the highest raw sale ever, numbered to 100 in 1999. A Devin Hester, I think I talked about before. But what's starting to happen slowly is it feels like just about every day there's at least one or two things selling. And I'm not selling, sub $10 stuff. I think there are two things in the store that are set up for ESE shipping. Everything else is bigger. The encouraging thing to me has been the really interesting, unique stuff is getting lots of watchers. It's getting lots of views, which means it's just a matter of time. There are things that people have interest in that they don't get to see very often. So I think that as the store continues to scale, as feedback continues to roll in, I think that's the biggest challenge right now is that the way eBay's algorithms work, I'm not getting the views that I will at some point, right?
Yeah.
And you know that better than anybody. You're in the opposite boat with your eBay right now, shifting your eBay. You've got 20,000 feedback or 20,000 items sold, whatever it is, at 100% feedback. So you're getting some boosts when you start to put some of that stuff in. But I don't regret the Whatnot move. The challenging part to me has been the speed. The nice thing about Whatnot is you can move a bunch of stuff and generate revenue pretty quickly. But I am doing more with what I have on eBay. I'm getting more value. I'm getting stronger things because it's a wider net, and the people that are looking for that stuff, that's where they go to find it. People aren't on Whatnot trying to buy that Jeff Bagwell card would have sold for $8.
Oh, we have been kicked in the teeth on that one.
and it sold for 140, right? Like it would have sold for $8. So it's been a positive thing, and I've enjoyed putting some of that stuff out there. Now, some of the messages that I get on eBay have been frustrating to deal with.
We should start doing a segment with that. When you get a real good one, we'll just block the name out and we'll do like a reading and let you respond.
I think my favorite one was the guy that wanted like 15 different sets of pictures on a $30 Luca card. It was just like, bro,
you didn't have it advertised as a gem, right? You didn't.
Correct. It was just eBay standards near mint or better. And it was like, I want pictures front and back. And I sent that. And he was like, okay, just the one on the left, front and back. I'm like, just zoom in, bro. It's the same card. Like, is that white on the corner?
He's trying to catch you slipping.
Buddy, I don't know what to tell
you. Say one thing that I don't agree with so that I can ask for a partial refund.
Yeah. If you're looking for a 10, you should go buy a 10. Or you can buy this and take your shot with it. But
eBay's not the place to pre-grade. Promise you.
No, that's been the only frustrating thing about it. Other than that, I've enjoyed it quite a bit. So
one thing that I would encourage you with too, like you were talking about the instant feedback with Whatnot, that's true. And what I like about Whatnot and my emphasis and energy that's going into that is that I learn within 3 days how the market is responding to new products, certain players. If I bought at a show for Whatnot versus eBay, if I knew I didn't do great, I at least extract my money back and get a little bit right away rather than parking it. The trade-off, however, though, I texted you this yesterday, I think, was with Whatnot, it's a reset to zero every show, every time. With eBay, you have scaling because as you add in, especially if you're targeting unique stuff where you're setting the new comp, stuff that's not up there, eventually there's going to be 500 cards available.
Yes.
And they're all going to be that kind of card. And at that point, you're not starting back at zero with a fresh sale. I hope people show up today. It's repeat buyers looking for really cool stuff that you have. So I think 3 months from now, you're going to be even more excited. And it's going to be, man, I just need to find more of this kind of stuff, which is the right problem.
Yeah.
Because then when it walks up to your table, you got a place for that stuff. You got a place for the showcase stuff. We have the joint Whatnot and all that. So that's really cool. I did my first auction liquidating the eBay store.
It was awesome. I enjoyed it.
It was so fun because so I have each of these, SKU bags. I don't remember what's in bag number 1149. I just open it up and we go through it together. But we ran Pokemon in there, probably like 8 lots of it, a bunch of brand new baseball stuff.
I think I saw some Star Wars even.
There was probably some Star Wars stuff in there. 19 stacks of 1958s. Beavis and Butthead cards. There was a Power Ranger lot of nothing but they were called Power Foil, but it was like the museum collection version of Power Rangers. So it was fun. If you source low end for value boxes or eBay, I'm just liquidating the shop. I grab a whole bag of the cards that were listed in my eBay store. I had to shut down the store because I didn't have time to keep up with shipping. And I started them at $5, go nuts. If it goes for $5, it goes for $5. If it goes for $50, then you guys felt like there was a great value there. So every week we'll be doing that. So take a look on the Whatnot Show schedule to be a part of that.
Well, if you're watching this right when the episode drops on Friday at noon,
come hang out.
Jason starts that show at what, 1 o'clock?
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
Yep.
There you go.
Come hang out. It's a fun vibe. I didn't do any giveaways and I didn't feel like it mattered because it was just like everybody's getting lots for pennies on the dollar. So just keep doing what you're doing, bud. It's fun. Yep. All right. I think that's it. Hopefully we'll see you at Eastgate, Cincinnati Grove City Card Fest on Sunday, and then a bajillion other shows for the foreseeable future. Daleville, Indiana next week. 2-day show. First time doing that
28th. Yep.
So, all right. This has been the Ballcard Show, the esports podcast
for the esports collector.
Bye now.
Peace.